Blockbuster. Blockbuster was a movie rental empire that turned down the chance to buy Netflix for $50 million. Founded in 1985, by 2004, it ran more than 8,000 stores in 17 countries and employed 84,000 people. Friday night at Blockbuster was an American ritual. The late fees alone brought in nearly $800 million in the year 2000, 16% of the company's entire revenue. That same year, the founders of a small DVD-by-mail startup flew to Dallas and offered Blockbuster a 49% stake in their company for $50 million. According to Netflix co-founder Mark Randolph, they were laughed out of the room. Netflix is now worth hundreds of billions. Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy in September 2010. Today, one Blockbuster store remains. One, in Bend, Oregon. Bed Bath & Beyond. Bed Bath & Beyond was a category killer that killed itself. The blue 20% off coupon was its identity. At its 2017 peak, the company ran over 1,500 stores and was worth more than $17 billion. Then, in 5 years, the executives made 3 decisions that destroyed it. They spent roughly $1 billion buying back their own stock instead of investing in the business. They killed the famous coupons in favor of private label brands customers didn't want. And they handed the company to the meme stock frenzy. Activist investor Ryan Cohen took a 10% stake in March 2022, pumped it on social media, and quietly sold a few months later, collecting roughly $178 million on the way out, while retail traders held the bag. The company filed for bankruptcy in April 2023. All 480 U.S. stores closed by the end of July. The name was eventually bought by Overstock for about $21 million. What killed Bed Bath & Beyond wasn't Amazon. It was $1 billion in buybacks, a coupon thrown away, and a pump and dump dressed up as activism. Toys R Us. Toys R Us wasn't killed by Amazon. It was killed by the people who supposedly bought it to save it. For decades, it was the largest toy store in the world. Over 1,500 locations, Jeffrey the Giraffe on every commercial, $11 billion in annual sales. Then, in 2005, 3 private equity firms, KKR, Bain Capital, and Vornado, bought Toys R Us in a $6.6 billion leveraged buyout. In a leveraged buyout, most of the debt used to buy the company gets piled onto the company itself. Toys R Us came out of the deal owing roughly $5 billion. According to Retail Dive, the interest alone cost the company about $400 million a year, money that should have gone into rebuilding stores and competing online. For over a decade, Toys R Us paid Wall Street while its stores aged, and Amazon ate its market. It filed for bankruptcy in September 2017. 6 months later, all 735 U.S. stores were liquidated, 33,000 jobs gone. Amazon didn't kill Jeffrey the Giraffe. Private equity did. Circuit City. Circuit City didn't die because of competition. It died because, 1 year before going bankrupt, it fired its best employees on purpose. In 2007, the electronics giant, over 700 stores, $12 billion in revenue, announced a cost-cutting plan. According to the company's own SEC filing, Circuit City fired 3,400 store associates whose pay was above the market-based salary range for their role. It fired its most experienced, most knowledgeable, best-paid salespeople, the ones who actually sold electronics, and replaced them with cheaper, greener staff. The logic was that lower salaries would mean higher margins. The logic ignored one thing. Customers came to Circuit City for the experienced salespeople. When the experts left, the customers left with them. In November 2008, Circuit City filed for bankruptcy. By March 2009, all 567 remaining stores were closed and 34,000 jobs were gone. Circuit City didn't lose to Best Buy. It fired the only people who could have saved it, Kmart. In 1994, Kmart had nearly 2,500 stores in the United States. Today, it has 3. For most of the 20th century, Kmart was the king of American discount retail. The blue light special was a household phrase. Then Walmart and Target arrived, and Kmart did nothing. No inventory technology, no real e-commerce, no fight for a position in the new market. Squeezed between Walmart on price and Target on style, Kmart was simply slower than both. It filed for bankruptcy in January 2002. The hedge fund manager, Eddie Lampert, bought it out, then merged it with Sears in 2005 in an $11 billion deal, a moment we'll come back to. The combined company starved both chains of capital for over a decade. The last full-size mainland Kmart closed in 2024. The store with 2,500 locations in 1994 has 3 left, one in the U.S. Virgin Islands, one in Guam, one that's barely a store. RadioShack. RadioShack sold America its first home computer. It now mostly exists as a Twitter account. Founded in 1921 as a ham radio supplier, RadioShack became the place where regular Americans learned what consumer electronics even were. It sold the TRS-80 in 1977, one of the first mass-market personal computers in history. At its 1999 peak, it ran over 8,000 stores in the United States. Then it forgot what it was. RadioShack abandoned the personal computer business it had pioneered. It pivoted to low-margin cell phones. It opened too many stores too close to each other, cannibalizing its own sales. It went through 6 CEOs in 10 years. By the time Best Buy and Amazon arrived, RadioShack had no answer. It filed for bankruptcy in February 2015 and again in March 2017. The brand was eventually acquired by a Salvadoran conglomerate and revived online, at one point as a cryptocurrency account known for posting irreverent jokes. The company that taught America how to use a personal computer now mostly sells tweets. Sears. Sears was Amazon before Amazon, and then it was murdered by its own owner. Founded in 1892, Sears began as a mail-order catalog. By the early 20th century, it sold everything: clothes, tools, appliances, even entire houses you could order through the mail. It was the largest retailer in the United States for most of the 20th century, with over 3,500 locations at its peak. In 2005, the hedge fund manager Eddie Lampert merged Sears with Kmart and took control. What he did next is what makes this case different from every other story on this list. Lampert ran Sears not as a retailer, but as a financial asset. He sold off Craftsman to Stanley Black & Decker for $900 million. He spun off 235 Sears properties into a separate real estate company. He refused to invest in stores or build a serious online business. From 2011 to 2016, Sears lost $10.5 billion. It filed for bankruptcy in October 2018. Today, Sears has 5 stores left in the United States. Mark Cohen, the former head of retail at Columbia Business School, told CNN, "They're phantoms in the night." A&P. There was once a retailer bigger than Walmart is today, a retailer so dominant that it was sued by a sitting U.S. president, and Congress passed a law specifically designed to stop it. You have almost certainly never heard of its name. It was called the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company, A&P. It was founded in 1859, the year before Abraham Lincoln was elected. By 1930, A&P ran nearly 16,000 stores in the United States, more locations than Walmart has in the entire world today, and captured roughly 10% of all the money Americans spent on food. The Wall Street Journal later wrote that A&P was as well known as McDonald's or Google is today. In the 1940s, the Truman administration filed an antitrust suit against it. The 1936 Robinson-Patman Act, designed to limit the company's pricing power, was nicknamed the Anti-A&P Act. Then the suburbs happened. Americans wanted larger supermarkets with parking lots, and A&P refused to adapt. The slow decline took decades. The company filed for bankruptcy in 2010, then again in 2015. Every single store was gone by November of that year. The biggest retailer in American history, sued by a sitting president, targeted by an act of Congress, and gone so completely that you didn't even know it existed. Some companies fail. Others were alive from the start.